Hi, we're going to look at Unit 2, Lesson 3, and Lesson 3 is looking at multiplication using factors and products. And real quick, a factor, I'm going to write a multiplication problem here. A factor, so if I do 2 times 3, and it equals 6, my factors are going to be the numbers that you multiply together to get the product. So 2 is a factor and 3 is a factor. So I'll put F under those. And that is a factor. And product is the fancy term that you need to use from this point on for a multiplication problem. So instead of using answer from this point on, you need to start using the word product when speaking about multiplication problems. So in this multiplication problem, 2, the factor of 2, and the factor of 3 when multiplied equals 6. So this is the product. Now, what's really unique about multiplication is that when you are multiplying by, and I'm going to have you look over here at this table right here, and we have 2 times 3, which is the multiplication problem that I just showed you, and 2 times 30, which is another multiplication equation, and 20 times 30, which is the third multiplication equation that we're going to learn. So the first one, 2 times 3, is going to show you 2 times 1 times 3 times 1. Underneath, in the second multiplication equation, you have 2 times 1 times 3 times 10. So already we're starting a pattern, and if you don't see the pattern, you might when I get to the next one. So then we have in the third multiplication equation, we have 2 times 10 times 3 times 10. Now what they simply did was they're saying that 2 times 1 is going to equal 2, and multiply that 3 times 1, which is going to equal 3. So these two multiplied together are going to equal a number. And then these two numbers multiplied together are going to equal a product. And together, if you multiply these factors with this factor, you should come up with the final factor, which would be 6 times 1, which would equal 6. Oh, and you really can't see that, so I'm going to erase that. So what you would see would be 2 times 1 times 3 times 1 would equal 6 times 1. And if you look at 2 times 3, these two factors, that will equal 6. And 1 times 1, those two factors will equal 1. And when you multiply those together, it will be 6. And I know that looks a little confusing, but hold on. So when taking larger numbers as you go, if you see anything that ends in a 0, for instance, 2 times 30. Now, you can actually break it down like they did and say 2 times 1 times 3 times 10. So you can make the equation that looks like this. And what this is actually doing is breaking 2 down times 3 times 10. So what the author is really wanting you to look at is if I multiply these two numbers together, you're going to get what? 6, right. And if I multiply 6 times 10, I can easily answer that question with the equation of 2 times 30, and that equals 60. And the last one shows you 20 times 30. So when you take 20 times 30, what they're doing again is multiplying 2 times 10, because that's actually what 20 is, right? That will equal 20, times 3 times 10, and that will actually equal 30. But to be able to make it easier in your head to multiply, and again, this is going to only be done when you are using multiples of 10. So for instance, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It can only be used when using multiples of 10. So when they take this, what they're going to do is they're going to multiply 2 times 3, and that will give you what? 6, correct. And 10 times 10 will give you what? 100, correct. And when you easily multiply this equation, 6 times 100, I think you all can do that, because then you're going to end up with the product of 600, which is the answer you're looking for to the multiplication equation of 20 times 30. So I'm going to have you try it and look at some equations yourself and try it out.